At some point, I challenged one of my colleagues to try and break the experience. This is something you can do with colleagues, not with actual users, but I like the idea of having some edge cases being tested as well. And it turned out it was really easy to break the experience in a way I didn't anticipate. When you're new in the room, you will not have seen the cardboard box yet. And it's the cardboard box that has this key in it. So if you've not looked at the cardboard box yet, but you are asking it to look at the key, then you shouldn't be able to get this response. You should get a response saying, I don't know about a key yet, or something like that. Because what's happening now is we are detecting the correct entity, and we are also detecting the right intent, but this key has simply not been seen yet. So we shouldn't be able to get any information about it. Something similar is happening here below, where the user hasn't picked up the key yet. Instead, the user is just trying to use the key on the door, but is still able to say, amazing, the door is now open. And when the user checks the inventory, we see that the key is not even in it, so we shouldn't be able to open the door. So this feels like a bug in our custom actions, and we gotta make sure we fix that in the next iteration. Now, later in the conversation, the same user tried to do something interesting with the window. So first, the user is saying, I want to look at the window, and then the user learns that jumping out of the window seems dangerous. However, the user is saying, let's try to jump out of the window nonetheless. And probably this is curiosity that's happening here. The user is just curious to see what would happen, and as a response, we might be able to do a small joke over here. Part of the fun to be had here is to explore what you can do, and if we're able to cover a lot of ground there, that might be a nice win for the experience. And if I scroll down further, the user, instead of jumping out of the window, is now trying to break it. And that's an intent that I hadn't considered before. I can explain to a user what the standard commands are, looking, using, combining, those sorts of verbs, but I can imagine it's going to be a more fun experience if I also allow for some non-standard verbs and that I have responses for them. I can imagine that applying violence to an object might give me the opportunity to do something that's funny. Either way, saying that I cannot pick up the window here is also a bad response. So I need to think, perhaps, about an extra intent, or at least some other way to deal with these, I will call them extra actions. I probably will not be able to cover them all, but I can imagine that I might be able to cluster a couple of these extra verbs together, and I can get responses for them. Especially if we consider breaking something, I could perhaps bucket that under apply force to something, and since it's an escape room, I can definitely imagine users trying to break something in order to move on with a puzzle. So this feels like ground that I do definitely want to cover, which, again, is good feedback.